December has started out with a few interesting books. You can see here is my Christmas tree, getting a little festive over here. The children keep taking all the ornaments off and putting them back on, so they're just all on in all sorts of different ways. So it's kind of fun. Really excited for the season. I would love to read maybe something a little Christmassy, so if anyone has recommendations, let me know. But let's just jump into the books that I've read for this month. So I read The Bass Rock by Evie Wyld, and this book, oh, it disappointed me. It had so much potential, made me so excited, and then by the end just never really came together. So this follows a few different storylines, which honestly can get a little confusing, not sure which chapter is referring to which person for a little bit, but we've got, early 1700s, a woman named Sarah who's accused of being a witch, and talking about her storyline and what's happening in her community. Then we also talk about right after the Second World War, Ruth just married into this family she has a new husband who has kids, and it's this strange community in this house by the sea, and it feels just a little bit creepy, like something's not quite right in this community. And then we jump also to 60 years later when the house that Ruth was in is empty, and Viv is going through Ruth's all of her old belongings and trying to catalog everything so that they can sell the house. So it's kind of spanning across a lot of time and these different women and this house, and you kind of get a really good, like the setting's really cool. It kind of gives you a lot of suspense, like this creepy cold town on a cliff. Like, something's not quite right. That there's like maybe a ghost and some haunting going on. And it's really, I think the main point of this book is a commentary on men shaping women's lives, and basically every man in this book is the worst monster that you will ever meet. I think some of it is the real horror was the men in these women's lives, not the ghost. I think that was what the author was going for, and it did feel very real, but also maybe a little over the top. Every single man in this was horrible, but I really liked it. It was building up so much suspense, but then at the end, the author left it really kind of open-ended. And I just feel like instead of leaving it open-ended in a way that leaves you waiting around for, leaves you with lots of thoughts and you can really contemplate, it just ended in a way that felt like the author gave up and didn't know how to take this grand story that she had written and put it together in any sort of way. It just felt like the author couldn't do it by the end and gave up. So I really did not like this book, but I was really excited about it the first half. I really felt like there was a lot of potential. So I feel like the author was very ambitious and it just didn't pull through for me. Yeah, I'm not sure. Don't really recommend this one. It just left me kind of annoyed. I read Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis, and I never really heard of this trilogy before. It's the Space Trilogy, #1, and I never really heard of it before. This follows Dr. Ransom, a Cambridge academic, and he is kidnapped and brought forcefully to this other planet, and Malacandra, and he has to figure out the people's language there and get involved in their lives and try to survive, because the two people who kidnapped him and brought him there have nefarious motives. So, okay, pretty solid plot, I get it. This kind of checks out. It was written a long time ago, I completely understand that, but even then, was this science, does this work as science fiction? Not really. It's very far-fetched, and maybe it was just the time and we've learned more about science since then, but really, as science fiction, it doesn't necessarily work for me. Really, none of the science fiction elements really worked for me at all. And in typical C.S. Lewis fashion, he talked a lot about it's very moral and has like more religious overtones. You know, he's trying to use this plot to explain a message. It's basically a really long parable, right? But I feel like the religiosity of it was distracting me from the sci-fi elements, and the sci-fi elements were distracting me from the moral message, and I never felt like they really joined together quite as well as maybe his other efforts, say in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where having those religious themes like Aslan kind of being our Jesus character really added to maybe the feeling you get from the overall book. This just, I felt like it was a little, just didn't work for me. I didn't really connect with it, and I didn't feel like there was anything super profound. So I think where I land on this is, if you want a good sci-fi book, don't pick this one up. I don't think you'll be very excited about it as a science fiction book. If you want a more theological book, maybe try, you know, the Screwtape Letters, or try one of his other books, because I just don't know if this was successful on either front, but it was fine. Like, it's a good solid 3 out of 5 stars, but just, I don't know if it was great. For a pretty fun read, I read The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. Now, this is taking the idea of the final girl in horror movies. A lot of times it's just this trope that in horror movies, everybody's going to get killed, but there's going to be that one girl who survives to the end and probably kills the killer. And so this book is saying that all those horror movies were based on real life events, and all those girls now have a support group. Now we're following our main final girl in the book, Lynette, and she becomes convinced that all of them are in danger and that somebody is trying to take down all the final girls. And it's paranoid and over the top. A lot of horror movie tropes are throughout this book. So if you are a horror movie fan, you're gonna like this. I'm not. So I liked the idea, I liked the premise, and really the book was really well done. Like, very well done all the way through the end. Like, highly recommend if you are a horror movie person. I thought that, okay, I don't like horror movies, especially slasher type movies. I'm not gonna watch like murdery stuff. Ugh, like that's not for me. But reading about it, I'm not watching anything gross. It's not like people, like I can read about it, but I feel like this still managed to be a little bit too for me. And then my weird thought on this book was that this was making kind of a social critique. And I think it's a valid point that what does it say about us as a society if we get our entertainment from watching women get injured and murdered? Like, what is that saying about us, that we can go eat popcorn and watch a bunch of women get murdered and torn apart in horrible ways and then just go continue on and go to dinner after? Like, that's really disturbing that we can all like that. But is it a little weird to have that message in a book where it's all about a bunch of people getting murdered? Like, am I getting I was like, oh, is she calling out me as the reader that I'm getting my entertainment from reading this? Like, I thought there was kind of a weird disconnect, but I mean, valid points, but also kind of a weird disconnect from how it was presented. But no, like, if you like horror movies or slasher films, you're gonna love this book. And I mean, I really still enjoyed it. There just were a couple like scenes and stuff that I was like, a little too murdery. Nope, can't do this. But for the most part, really good, kind of a fun one. I just finished Eternal by Lisa Scottoline, and this is a historical fiction book, and it's following Elisabetta, Marco, and Sandro that are all best friends, and it Italy during the Second World War and what happens because Sandro is Jewish and Marco is a fascist, and both of them are in love with Elisabetta, and it goes all the way through the end of the war. And as historical fiction goes, I mean, if you've been watching my videos, you know I have some mixed feelings on when it works and when it doesn't. This one had its moments. It was very informative. I learned a lot about the climate in Rome specifically, leading up to and through the war, especially in families, as some family members were fascists and a lot of people thinking they were doing the right thing, supporting Mussolini, and just all those dynamics were very interesting to read about, and just the historical events surrounding this. And especially, I thought, where an interesting book would be is really exploring the tension between the Nazis coming into Rome and taking away all of the Jewish people right next to the Vatican. And isn't there some sort of religious tension, like that the Vatican would allow that kind of thing to happen? And I would be interested to see more analysis of that side. So all in all, that was fun. Like that, not fun. That was interesting. That was worthwhile. Like I thought that that was very informative and interesting. Where I really didn't like this book was that it just turned into like a teenage love triangle throughout the whole thing. And I don't want to read about a teenage love triangle in a fun fantasy book. I don't want to read about it in a war-torn Italy historical fiction book. That's just, I hate love triangles. And so I kind of was annoyed by it. Also, the author tries so hard to show that this is Rome. We speak some Italian, and kept throwing in like a couple Italian words, but it's, you know, the kind of Italian words that people who don't speak Italian like to throw in a lot, like, oh yes, the spaghetti and the rigatoni, and just, you know, there was a little bit of that going on. But overall, like, a really good effort. You could tell the author it was really close to the author's heart. It had a lot of heart and a lot of research and a lot of time and dedication put into it. And I mean, I don't want to fault it for that. Really, just the love story was just kind of, for me, not a fan. So, I mean, if you love this genre, you would probably enjoy this. If you don't like love triangles, stay away. That is it for the beginning of December. I will be back probably a few times this month with both book reviews and just some roundups for the year. I'm gonna try some different format videos, so let me know if there's anything you would like to see, and I will see you all on the next one.